Hi, what's up, everybody? You are watching On the Town. Thank you for coming back another week and joining us on the Town with Tanya. We appreciate you. This week, let's see. So I love music. Used to work a little bit in the industry. Used to sing, and guitar is something that I wish I would have learned or mastered, but never did. But today's guest is here because music and sounds for me are what binds the soul. So today's guest is considered by many as America's leading classical guitarist. He is dedicated to helping aspiring artists achieve classical guitar mastery. I can't say the word. He has recorded over 325 tracks. That's more than the Beatles. Even if he has a joke to go with that, but even if he didn't get the same royalties, he's recorded a lot. He has performed all over the world. Please welcome the lovely Jonathan Taylor. Hey,
For that introduction, Tanya.
how are you?
Very good.
Thank
Excellent.
you. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. I know you're probably very busy, but I appreciate you coming to our audience and enlightening us about music. Um, I heard your music, amazing,
Thank you.
amazing. The way you play is just, I can't even explain it. It just flows and flows and flows right into your heart and your soul, and it keeps flowing. Amazing, amazing. Your journey to becoming one of the top classical guitarists in the world is very, very interesting. Can you share what your first, what first you drew you into, playing the guitar and how you
Well,
developed?
sure. Well, first of all, my grandmother was a silent film organist, so the piano was there in the house, and she was playing. And she used to have, um, uh, she played in all of the theaters owned by Fox, meaning before he started his film studios, he actually owned the Orpheum Circuit.
Oh,
And what that was like vaudeville. So she played silent films and played with all the people of that era. For example, Charlie Chaplin,
mhm.
um, Lon Chaney Sr., Man of a Thousand Faces, Harold Lloyd. She did many gigs with Harry Houdini.
Mm.
And so how would she do this? Well, the if it's a film, then it's going da, 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 right, and the dramatic music for that. But
Mhm.
many times she would be playing in theaters, of course, and
Mhm.
uh, in those days, people Houdini sold out incredibly. I
Right.
mean, he was a big, big thing. He took 1 year off because he got a movie contract for like I think three pictures down here in LA,
Mhm.
and he hated it. And the reason why he hated it was because he didn't make anywhere near the money. The films didn't make much money at all. And
Mhm.
so, that was a year of his life that he could have been, making bank, as they say. So
Right.
I grew up with my grandmother in the background, but really what transpired was that I wanted to learn how to play. I started picking out tunes, humming on the doorstep, all that about 4, and then 10, I got serious. Then
Mhm.
when I was age 16, I heard Segovia in a concert at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los
Mhm.
Angeles.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't believe somebody could move their fingers like that and create such beautiful sounds. So that's
Wow.
kind of what started me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. There's so many people I've heard, and I've heard them move their fingers like Carlos Santana or
Sure.
who else? Hendrix.
Carlos grew up in Tijuana. He left, I think he was 13 or 14. I don't remember
Really?
what. Yeah, Carlos grew up in Tijuana in Mexico,
Wow. I
and
heard he had an
came to
interesting
East
story.
LA, right? Montebello, maybe.
Wow. I heard he had an interesting story. But yeah, I fell in love with guitar literally listening to this particular styles. Like now Rogers plays a certain style. He was, that's electric. It's not classical. It's not what do you call what's the name of the guitar? Lord help me. It's not the same as the classical
Hmm.
when you play the
Yeah.
electrical,
Yeah.
but you can get the same energy and spiritual fulfillment, I'll say, from both, depending on what's being played. So
Hmm.
uh, I love when you just hear certain people's riffs and you're like, I know who that is. Like you can actually,
Oh, sure. Oh,
yeah,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
yeah. I love that about the guitar. In your very extensive career, you perform with many orchestras, ensembles. how do you approach collaborating with different musicians or conductors?
Yeah, in those cases, it's like concertos, so they're written for that. I actually prefer solo and don't do that much collab anymore, even though I had a dear friend in Barbados, meaning Barbados, the Caribbean, Hal
Right.
Archer. We did
Right.
a couple albums. I brought him here to LA area and stayed with me, and he and I did a guitar and flute album. So that's a
Right.
collaboration right there.
So you do prefer playing by yourself?
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I mean, that's a silly question because I mean, who wouldn't want to, especially if you're the best at
Well,
it?
one of the things that inspired me about the guitar in Segovia when I was young was that you didn't need anybody else. As Segovia used to say, that the guitar is like a miniature orchestra with reverse binoculars, because
Mhm.
all the timbres and all the colors and all of the things are going on at the same time. It's a complete piece. It's not like a folk group or a folk band where they're just strumming or playing a single note or that. What you're doing when you're playing Bach is you're doing two, three, maybe four things at the same time,
Right.
you
Right.
know, juggling a lot of plates in the air.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And with certain, like the way you play, you don't need anything else at
Yeah.
all. Like
And
nothing.
it would interfere with the authenticity of it, you see. It
Exactly.
would then become what I call, well, phony, So when people say, what is, the complexity of your uh, music, and I go, well, I think the only thing that really is what makes an artist is playing from their heart.
Yes.
And without, I go, a computer can play faster than any human being,
Yes.
and it doesn't matter. They can create a tone, that sounds like a piano or sounds like a saxophone or something, and really. And I've talked with this also with some of the biggest producers in the world. I have a dear friend. I consider him, and I don't want to. He never wants social media, so I have to respect him.
Okay. Okay.
He's like that. Jonathan, don't put that picture. Okay, okay, right.
I'm,
And so he would say, he goes, Jonathan, it doesn't even matter about the engineering anymore. It doesn't even, because he produced so many damn albums, every album
mhm.
And he said, it's all about the heart. And
Mm,
I'm his favorite guitarist. So uh, I think that's really true, that what comes through
mhm.
is that spirit. And without it, I go, well, what is it? It's just a dead. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of it like a clear-cut example. But I always say most of today's music, but don't let me tell it because I'm very picky about stuff. We will play something of yours, and hopefully I won't get cited for it. You see the artist is here, YouTube. He's here, and he's given permission to play that piece. So hopefully you won't cite me for it. But
I would never do that.
I know, no, not you. They do.
Oh, right, right.
I've had
No,
artists.
because the one that I sent you, I can't
Mhm.
remember what I sent you now.
You sent me introduction and variation or
All
Jim.
right, that one is
Jim.
not. That one is not. It can't be cited. I mean,
Good. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Good. Okay. And what about Jim the PD? Jim
that
the
can't be either because they're videos, right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, you sent it to me, but I want to make it's
sure,
okay. They'll release them once I say he gave me
sure,
permission, but it's just like a pain. But it's okay. Just so the audience will have an idea.
sure.
So your interpretation of classical works are deeply personal and nuanced. How do you approach learning and interpreting a new piece of music? Like what
Sure.
factor influences that
Sure.
interpretation?
Well, there's a process, and I imagine everybody has a different process, or they can.
Yes.
But you learn the notes, and then I call it burnishing it into
Mm,
your soul.
mm,
That repetition is the mother of skill, and at the same time, you have to get it to the level where you're feeling it. So a person can know something here,
right.
but they have to know it here.
Yes. Exactly.
And that transference, so to speak,
Mhm,
takes some time, maybe, depending upon the piece.
mhm,
And so that's what I do after
mhm,
I've, quote, learned the notes.
mm, mm. Yeah. So after you learn the notes, yeah, it is one of those things because guitar, even singing, when you take someone's song, even your own song, it's how you interpret it. And if it's not dedicated to your spirit and your soul, I think that's when it comes out. And that's when people either do or don't like it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
I
it's all-
that
Mm,
that music can heal people too. I've said that many times.
absolutely.
I will, and I'll give you an example. And I've said this on a couple podcasts before.
Mhm,
But one tour I did in India, I was in Bombay. They call it Mombasa now.
yeah.
I was playing at the National Theatre,
Mhm,
and that's like their Lincoln Center.
mhm,
It's the same. It's like it even looks like it.
mhm.
And they also have a replica of Albert Hall in Madras.
Oh,
So I was playing there, and after the end of that tour, a couple months later, my manager received a letter, and it the first word was Shanti, which is kind of peace, and uh, I greet the God in you, that idea, and it the guy thanked me because he was going to kill himself that night.
mm, mm,
He was going to kill himself.
mm,
And he went to my concert
mhm.
and then he didn't.
I
And
believe.
something happened. So, why do I say that? I go, because in some way, and whatever that is, it
Mhm.
healed him at least to some degree. Where,
Absolutely.
yeah, where it prevented him from
Mhm.
taking his own life.
Absolutely. I've seen music have that power, the power
Yeah.
of doing that. And that's why, it is all about ohms. We are a human system that operates on ohms. And for people that don't know music, that's just, well, I want to equate it still to a spiritual level in a way, because it technically could be. It's like something that makes you feel great inside or
Right.
not.
Right.
Depending on what kind of music you hear, it could be not. But it's something that just soothes your soul. And how would I describe ohms? I don't even know how to describe ohms. It Yeah, I call it a soul soother. I don't know. It's something.
Well, after that tour and receiving that letter, my manager, we were sitting in his office, and he looked at me and said, "Jonathan, that was worth the whole tour right there." I go,
Mm,
"Exactly,
see,
exactly. I
yeah.
know exactly what you mean."
Well, I heard a few of your songs, and I was like, yeah, I would definitely want to be living after I listen to that. It would bring me back to life. I mean, for sure.
Thank you.
Because the way you play, your technique is so amazing. And I know it's crucial for any virtuoso, anybody. Technique is everything. But many guitarists, they struggle, while they maintain their consistency,
Hmm.
and their precision. What practices and exercises did you rely on to keep your
Well,
technique?
when I was younger, I studied with the greatest masters in the world. I did a master class with the wonderful and great Christopher Parkening. I also studied privately with Pepe Romero of Los Romeros, or the Romeros, at
Mm,
Pepe's home in Del Mar,
mm,
and for like 5 years.
mhm,
And so I drive down there. I live in Orange County,
mm,
uh, and would drive down to Del Mar to his home. So I studied with that. I studied with Frederick Node, who was for his era, he was very notable. He had a PBS series called Playing the Guitar, and he
mhm,
wrote a book called Playing Guitar.
mhm,
And so I studied with notables like that. And also, there was a professor that was a leading authority on a couple composers, Giuliani.
yeah,
He was known to be, uh, what can I say, the expert, and
mhm,
published some of his unknown works and so forth. So brought that to the public,
mm,
to life. So I did that. But I also think that it's very true, even though you study with the greatest masters in the world, I go, well, it may do you no good, because you have to find that path yourself. There's nobody in the earth like you. There
right,
never will be again a person like you. And once you pass away, I go, that's it. There'll never be anybody even similar to
mm,
you,
mm,
because of your experiences and that. So I ultimately believe that the player teaches themselves in the end.
Yeah, and each player is important because we never know what we're going to get. It's
Yeah.
very interesting. The classical guitar community is very like passionate about instruments, the history. Well, as anyone would be, if
Mhm.
you're studying either with the singing side, music side, doesn't matter. Are there any lesser known composers or works for guitar that you believe deserve more attention?
Well, what I've done is not only have I recorded and performed and played all the masterpieces, meaning Bach, the Spanish masterpieces, and Fernando Sor and Tarrega and those things. But I had a mission, and this was actually predicted that I was going to do this many
Hmm.
years ago. It was predicted, and I didn't kind of even think of it that way back then. But
Hmm.
I have adapted many genres of music
Hmm.
on the classical guitar that heretofore have never been transcribed or adapted. I'll give you an example. I
Okay.
have one of my albums that takes psychedelic pieces from the 60s and plays it on classical guitar as a whole piece. I've taken film scores like The Wonderful Wizard of Oz and
Right.
the James Bond themes and adapted them into a magnum opus, into some of the medleys, like an American medley of the
Mm.
19th century folk songs. So all of those things are adapting pieces that are not, have never been adapted to that. Now, let me give you an example of why I say that. Because I consider myself not just a classical artist, but a crossover artist. Because
Yes.
I play Duke Ellington on it. I will play yeah, Scott Joplin, and here's what I mean by saying a crossover. Everyone knows that back in the 50s, there was Hank Williams and he wrote a song, Hey, Good Looking, What You Got Cooking? How
Yes.
about cooking something up for me? And I go, well, he was a very niche player, a very niche, small, very small niche audience.
Yeah.
And then, and that's fine. He had his audience. And then along came Glenn Campbell.
Glenn
And
Campbell.
Glenn Campbell altered the country music industry forever. Every person that now is out there, or the one that just died, Toby Keith, and
Yeah.
all these other people,
Mm.
uh, owe their existence to Glenn Campbell. Why? Because I go, well, was he country? I go, yes and no.
Mm.
Was he rock? Yes and no.
Mm.
Was he folk? Yes and no. So what did he do? I go, he transcended the genre and
Mhm.
he brought a larger audience to bear where people wouldn't just listen to country music,
Right.
but they'll listen to Glenn Campbell.
Right.
No?
Yeah, that's amazing. And when I think about that, at the time, I didn't think about it back in the day when I was listening to that music. But now, looking back, I'm like, wow, yeah, that is very true. But him and there's a few others, and it may not in the classical sense, but I know there's a few other that went out of regular genres, let's say. And because I know I love hearing, and I can always hear his riff when he plays electrical guitar. Who is it? Nile Rodgers. I can always tell his riff, even if
Sure,
it's a new song. But
absolutely.
it's still original to the song, but I know it's his because he's
I
just
understand.
naturally
Yeah,
so well.
his musical personality comes through.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So recording an album, I know it can be very what's the word, intimate experience for musicians, right? Artists. What is your process like when you're recording an album?
Well, I'll give you an example yesterday.
Mhm.
What happened?
That's
I'll
it.
give you an example. So
Mhm.
I'm filming, I actually up here in Ventura on location doing
Mhm.
performance videos, filming.
Mhm.
And so I was in this kind of a desert landscape, you know, that California rock cactus thing landscape. And that's where we position the camera and everything, right? Equipment. And I got about six takes, like maybe three pieces,
Mhm.
and the chords broke.
What?
Meaning the chords that lead into the microphone and
Mhm.
into the all right, the recording machines. And what happened? I go, the whole pin fell out, and then this one fell out. And
Oh no.
so I was laughing during it, and that's it. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
So what do you have to do? I go, you have to go buy a new chords, you know? So that was my session yesterday. Did I get some good takes? Yes.
Okay.
But it was half the day. It was half,
It was
yeah.
well, yeah.
So that's an example of a practical, and everybody thinks, I go, well, why do you record on location? I go, well, it's easy to do it when you're in the studio,
Right.
and because you have a controlled environment. But what happens yesterday, I go, oh, a plane goes overhead,
Mhm.
a little kid walks by or something.
Right.
The stand falls. I've actually had the stand fall into my guitar and pull my guitar quick enough that because it would have damaged it, right? But the microphone stand and that are just falling right on me, right? So, I mean, that's what happens when you're on location. I go, well, and then what's the benefit? I go, well, you get that wonderful landscape. Look at that beautiful landscape. Then the sun is out. It's natural light. It's not all the lights, right? Not the artificial light. I go, well, there's the sun and it's 2 o'clock or whatever.
Right. Right. And so you can I think you get a more authentic play because you're getting authentic environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Should we listen to something right now?
Sure. Please
Okay,
do.
guys, we're gonna listen to one song. Let me get it up here. Let's get this right. Video files. It is video files, right? Let's see if I can get this right. I did not get this right. Share. Oh Lord, why did I press that button? Hopefully I didn't. Guys. I hope I did not mess this up. It's going in the pinwheel colors. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. I'll tell you that. That's not a good sign.
Well, do the other one.
Yeah, but the pinwheel will not go away.
Oh, it won't work. Okay.
Scaring me. So
Right.
hopefully nothing will happen. But in the meantime, guys, until that pinwheel leaves, we'll just keep chatting for a second and hopefully it'll stop.
Sure.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I got it. And I did the wrong one. Okay, cancel. Okay, so it's going to let me do my thing. It's not a video file. I'm going to share screen. That's why. My apologies. Okay, here we go. Which one would you like first? Introduction or Gymnopedy?
Whatever gymnopedy.
Gymnopedy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I said so wrong. Okay, guys. So here we go. Let's listen in. Fantastic. Wow. Oh, fantastic. Stop sharing. There we go. That was fantastic. Wow. Woo-hoo. Amazing. I mean,
Thank
just
you.
the sound of that is just, Whew, it's heartwarming. It's very
Now, that
heartwarming.
was written by Eric Satie in the
Yes, that's
19th
right.
century, and I consider him a great visionary, and I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
Because he captures a world that had not been captured before, similar
Mm,
to Debussy and Ravel,
mhm,
using a parallel ninth instead of functionally doing tonality in a shall we say, traditional or common practice manner. He broke those rules and
mhm.
created a floating sound, a sensual world that had not really occurred, other than, of course, Ravel and Debussy, his colleagues. Uh,
Mm,
and so I think he was very much in tune with the mystical and with the mysteries of life. And
yes.
Einstein used to say the greatest thing we can experience is the mystery of life.
Mm,
And I always thought that Satie
mhm,
had a finger in that world, a hand in that world, and he
mhm.
brought it into this world.
Yes. Certainly did. Every time I hear the song, it just freezes me with happiness inside.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, so ethereal, right?
Yes. Yes, that's the word. I would lack the wording, but I know definitely I have the feeling of every time I hear the right instrument, I know that's it. I can't describe it sometimes, but that's because I'm not a I'm not an artist in that aspect. So that's all. So I want to hear one more because the
Sure,
introduction and variation, I just love that.
sure. Now
Just so
that's a
you have an
sure.
idea. Guys, just so you have an idea of the level that we're talking about here of play of showmanship here. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see. I'm going to play this one. Here we go. Okay. What's that? Introduction variation. Ooh, got to stop. Is that me? Uh-oh. Oh, that's interesting. All right, guys. Well,
Probably the internet connection.
maybe so. I don't know what happened, but we're not going to let that sit
Okay.
forever. Sorry, guys. Not
Well, they
sure.
can, if they're interested in doing it, just type, if they're interested in hearing that stuff, just type Jonathan Taylor guitar into
There we go.
Google and you'll have a YouTube website come up and all sorts of other stuff.
Yes.
And you can listen to it on the YouTube channel.
Yes. Let me see. Yeah, I was trying to refresh, but it's not. Remember, I told you, but
That's okay.
sometimes
It's usually the internet connection. Yeah, it's not perfect. The
yeah,
internet is.
very beautiful piece. Yes, Norma, it is beautiful and very calming. That's the word. Yes, very calming. And a good guitar can do that to you. Can take you all the way out of trouble and ease your mind if it's
Yeah,
good. So I appreciate that, guys. You're listening. That was Jonathan Taylor. Oh, amazing.
it's
Uh,
easy. Just type, if they want to hear my music, just type Jonathan Taylor guitar. Make sure you put guitar in there, and because otherwise you'll get this wonderful black football player.
football player, right?
Yeah,
That's who I got it first.
he's great. I love this guy,
Yes.
and hopefully one day we can meet. But he's a very talented man.
Yes, but his name does come up, and so did John Taylor of the basis for some famous group. I forgot his name.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
funny
So
that.
I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, it is what it is. John's a very popular name anyway.
Yeah,
So how do you prepare mentally and emotionally for a performance, for a live performance?
sure.
Like, do you
So
experience pre-performance
sure,
nerves or anything like that?
sure. You know what I do? I always like to be in the green room or backstage, alone for about 30 minutes
Mm-hmm.
and
Hmm.
before, the downbeat, before start time.
Right.
And what do? I go, well, first of all, I don't over practice. Some people do this. I just relax. I want to warm up. I want to make sure to warm up beforehand because the pieces are so difficult. It's
Right.
important to do that.
Right.
Just to feel that your fingers are working right. And then what I do is I try to listen to the music in my head, because in the end, I actually don't create the music. It's as if the music is still there. Now people say, don't you perfect the piece? I go, the piece is already perfect.
Right.
I can't perfect it. I can
Right.
only perfect me. That's the only thing I can perfect. That piece that was written by Satie that we just heard, I go, that piece is perfect. And I don't perfect it. I perfect me. And what do? I sit backstage, play, warm up, as I said, and I'm imagining the piece. I'm hearing it in my head. I'm maybe going through it. Oh, I'm starting with this tonight, and then this is the third piece, and whatever the program is, right? And and I try to be very calm. And people ask, you ever nervous? I go, I've never been nervous in my life on stage, ever. And why is that? And I go, because I know what I'm doing. Now, if I didn't know what I'm doing,
Right.
if somebody said, Jonathan, operate on this man's heart, I go, I'll kill him. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I go, what do I know? I go, some that your heart beats or that it has a systole and diastole. I know some very cursory things
Right.
about it. But so I don't get nervous because I know, am I excited? Yes, I'm a little excited, but in a good way, right?
Right.
And not in a nerve-wracking, way. It's not that at all. And I've never been that way.
Good.
I go, once you know what you're doing, I mean, are you nervous tying your shoe? Are you nervous, start driving your car? You know how to do those things.
Exactly. And if it's your gift and you've been doing it that long, I mean, at that point, you either know it or you don't. It's that simple. So in a world of classical guitar, there's a debate often between tradition and innovation. So how do you strike a balance between like honoring classical?
Sure. Oh, no, you're right. That's a great question, because that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to bring a new audience, a more diverse audience to the classical guitar, because even though all the masterpieces, I tell people, I go, how many more recordings of Recuerdos and Leyenda do we need in this world?
Right.
We already got 50 of them or whatever. And so I want to have programs and albums that are multifaceted, many different types of music. So when I told you I adapted psychedelic, I adapted film music for the classical guitar. So I am trying to strike a balance, because some people will not listen to anything but, let's say, the Spanish masterpieces or Bach. But then other people, I go, well, they won't listen to that. They don't even care.
Right.
But they will listen to James Bond themes.
Right. But you know who changed that, just a pinch in a sense? I mean, hate to bring up example, but there is an artist who I gotta say really brought young people in on a whole nother level for Bach and some other stuff. Alicia Keys, I gotta say, when she did Fallen, particularly Fallen, the particular one I'm talking about.
Sure.
That piece, the beginning with the piano, I just everyone was like, "What is this?" So even if excuse me,
then that's how you expose them. So when you expose people with something they've heard before and then add something they haven't, that's a good way to do it, because it's not like shock and drop into the cold water. It's, it's more gently leading.
But just to see the reaction, because I used to work with young people a lot, and a lot of young people from inner city areas, different areas, but that particular one, and the response was very amazing to me. Like, it wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even like, oh, it got some guitar in it, or oh, it has it. It wasn't even that. It was just like, wait, Don't talk to me. Let me listen to this, because that's the response you're supposed to get from that beginning piece. You know, the beginning piece,
Sure.
with the piano's playing.
You want to go get a glass of water?
Well, I'm trying to see if I thought I had one here. I thought I had one
Go
right.
ahead.
But it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
I just went wrong too.
'Cause you can have mine here.
Thank you. I'm good to go. Yeah, no, that's good to bring many people, because to me
Sure.
also, if it's good, you can take an audience from anywhere, whether it's a trailer or a high-end King's family, I don't know,
Sure.
and sit them down, and if the right hits your soul, the right tone hits your soul, it's on.
Right.
That's
So,
it. That's it.
yeah,
Some may not be used to it because they may be in a chaotic environment. So they're used to something. I'll give you an example. Like, I love Sex Pistols, but I have to be in the mood for Sex Pistols, right?
sure.
I mean, I got to be in the mood for that. That's like, there's nothing the same when I listen to the Gypsy Kings, or I listen to a classical, a
Sure.
Bach piece, or listen to Miles Davis. They're not alike at all. So it depends on what my spirit is at the moment, is what you're going to get me. But a good piece, like the piece we just heard right now, if you honestly played that anywhere on a loudspeaker, not many people are like, oh, what is this? Because it just warms the soul. Now, there are some people who I believe may not have one, or it's lost. So they are the people that it wouldn't touch. You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
Sure.
And it's not a judgment. It's just that's
Well,
unfortunate.
heart speaks to heart, doesn't it? Heart
Yeah.
speaks to heart.
Yeah.
And if you can tune into that vibration,
The vibration.
yeah.
The vibration is everything. So teaching is a big part of your career as well, I
In
see.
the past, I don't teach anymore, but
Not
that's
anymore?
years
Okay.
ago.
Okay.
Years ago.
Well, what
I've
advice?
done my time.
You did my time. I'm done with that. Well, what advice would you give a young guitarist who aspires to reach a professional
Listen to
level?
the recordings of Andre Segovia, Julian Bream, Christopher Parkening, Pepe Romero, myself, the recordings of, and seek out
Mhm.
a real musician, not some guy that is, doing a bunch of junky,
Right. I know what you mean.
crummy stuff, because
Right.
then you'll
All
become.
the beats together.
It's the old saying, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Mhm.
So you want to put something in you. So when people say, what do you do when you're not playing? I go, oh, I study physics, I read, lots of different things. So I'm not, doing things that are not going to benefit me. I want to grow. I've heard people say, perfect, perfect. I go, I don't want to be perfect, because it means I can't grow. I'm already done. Take me out of the oven, I'm done.
Right.
So I don't want to be like that. I want to be constantly growing, constantly transcribing new pieces, learning new pieces, arranging, because I have an orchestral background, of orchestral composing. And so I know all the other instruments of the orchestra as well. So the guitar is very unique. Its voicings are unique. Tuned in fourths with 1/3 between the G and the B, but all the other instruments of the orchestra are tuned in thirds. So obviously it's going to have a different sound.
Yes.
Because voicings are going to be different.
Yeah,
So what would I suggest for a young person? I would suggest listening to those recordings I mentioned, of people I mentioned. And I would suggest try to learn to pick out the pieces, and then learn to read music as well, because that's a more advanced thing. I mean, musician naturally starts with just hearing the music and going. Carrie, you might have some Japanese kid that makes his parents make him do, piano lessons or something like that. But I'm going, a natural musician. I was picking out little tunes on the ukulele when I was 4 years old, because my little fingers could only hold that, right? And so what would I suggest? That. And listen to the music that moves you. that does something for you. If a piece leaves you cold and you don't like it, don't listen to it. If it doesn't give you anything, I go, what's the point? You
Right.
want to gain something from that piece. Does it touch right? Frank Sinatra would never record a song that didn't move him. He'd say it all the time. No, I'm not recording that. So, because if he goes, then how am I going to interpret it? Right? If I can't identify with it, if I can't get into it, what am I doing? And then it's a phony, right? Then it's like a phony thing.
Absolutely. And you can tell as an audience person.
Yeah. Yeah. The audience knows when you're sincere. I tell people, people say, why have you been so successful? All this stuff. I go, because they know I'm the real McCoy. Because they know I'm not a phony baloney.
Funny baloney, as the grandkid was saying. Funny baloney.
Yeah.
So if a musician is trying, how do they, there's so many challenges. How do they overcome something like, well, you said listen to videos if it's a playing challenge. If it's trying to, even if it's trying to perfect yourself, I guess, listen.
And hunt down some guitar teachers or music teachers of some kind. They'll be at music studios. Maybe it's at a music school, right? Maybe if you're of a certain age, it's college, and if you're a youngster, you want to hunt down a teacher so they can, I won't say give you shortcuts, but give you correct ideas to move in the direction you want to go.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you. What about, so you did over 325 recordings. And so I know you said it was more than the Beatles, but how does that work? Like 325, that's a lot.
Yeah. How's it work? Instead of touring, you go into the studio.
Right. Do you like it better?
I knew early on in my career, here's what I discovered. I had, I did the big debut album, right? And then that got here in America. And then I went over to Europe and I got a parallel deal, so to speak, for a European company. But then I only had that one album at the time. And so people say, what do you do? I go, you make a choice. You're going to tour more or you're going to record more. I knew I needed to make a catalog. I knew I needed to do that. So I focused on doing that instead of so much live performance.
Right. Now, how does that work?
What I did earlier.
Right. How does that work with, because I know a lot of recording artists today got very bad deals. They call them a 7-year deal or something they call them.
Oh,
so
I'm sure.
They don't have good deals at all. And I know back in the 40s and 50s, it was work. One lady said she was getting 25 cents every time it played. I was like, what? These like from the old groups back in the Stylist days and the 50s, we were like,
right. Well, here's one of the reasons why that happens is because in those days, I own all my music. In other words, I produced it, I engineered it. I'm very rare. The Beatles don't own their music.
I know. If Michael Jackson had bought their catalog.
There you go. And Paul introduced him to the world of publishing too. Yeah. So,
well, there was a lot of racism then too, and sexism going on. So there's a couple elements going on, I believe, in the 40s, 50s, the early times. A lot of stuff going on. And now, if you don't do your math and your homework, you're going to get a bad deal.
So one of the reasons that artists don't know their catalog is they can't pay for all this stuff, because if it's a group, now you have to go to the studio and you've got the basses, you got this one, you got that one. And so now you have to put up money. So what the record company used to do, now technology has changed, is they would put up the money to produce that album, right? To create the album, because the artist didn't have the money. And he was the talent that, made it. So it made sense in a way that you didn't own it, but that's different now.
You think so? You wrote the song, you sing the song, and they get all the
cut? Oh, but you can't get screwed on that. Here's why. Most publishing deals are 50-50.
Not the ones I've been hearing about, but
I'll bet you're right. I'm sure that's true. But
because they didn't go in the way they were supposed to, I believe. But
yeah, in the old days, the company owned everything, but but today you don't have to do that. Right. All the technology is here. I mean, you can record The studios I worked in Long Beach with a
Mhm.
gentleman who bought the Electric Ladyland mixing board from New York, the studios that Jimi Hendrix did
Oh,
Electric Ladyland on.
mhm.
And at that time, it cost him $400,000.
Wow.
That's what he paid. And that was like in the 70s.
Wow.
And I said, wow. And that's a lot of, what is that, $3 million today, $5 million or something.
Yeah. Easily.
And so in those days, it was just very different. And now the whole world is different. Once the MP3 file came along,
Yes.
then artists really got destroyed because nobody needed to pay for anything.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
just download the file.
Yeah.
So so it's very difficult. Now you have YouTube, you have
Yes.
other venues, right? Other
Yes.
ways to get out there.
Yes. You don't even really need the label anymore, technically, unless you want to be a
Only
big.
for advertisement. For example, I have one of my albums that is actually, and they've got another year on it
Mhm.
for using it, leasing it,
Mhm.
so to speak,
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
Warner Brothers and HitLab.
Okay.
And so one of those albums that I have is with them. All the other ones are not with them. So I'm saying that because uh, you can make arrangements and deals that were going to be beneficial to you. But now you have different ways to expose the artist.
Mm.
Podcast,
Yes. Exactly.
Joe Rogan, right?
Yes, Rogan. That's right. Look at for sure. Rogan podcast is definitely way. There's just so many more venues. I mean, even if I mean honestly, I used to tell young kids because you know a lot of times they get in and they're getting in the business now. The business is not what it used to be. At least not for rap,
No way.
for rap,
Very
not
different.
for R&B. It's horrible. So
Radically different.
yeah, I tell young people, and I'm so glad that they are so resourceful, so smart. These young people out here making their own studios in their own house, making their own, you know, they're doing it and selling their
Sure.
own album. I said, that's what you focus on that. Do not focus on, I'm going to be at a big major label. Because when you do
Right.
that, along with that comes other stuff. Now, if you
That's
want
true.
that, then go ahead, be my guest.
Well,
But
it's a double-edged sword, right? It's a
exactly,
double-edged sword. The big
exactly.
company has the money to advertise you,
Yes,
to, put you
yes.
in the right places. On the
And
other hand, they're going to take a big chunk.
yes, and the thing about when we say put us in the right places, and this is what I want young artists to understand, especially when they're very young and they're so gullible, is that your gift is your gift, right? How do
Mhm.
you let someone else just take full control of that? That's to me, it boggles my mind. Some people
I
like that.
think I think you're right, and I think a person that was really responsible for showing that was Prince, and I'll tell
Yes,
you what I mean.
yes.
Prince, he said that he'd be in his neighborhood, and a kid would come up, and he'd be talking to this kid,
Mhm,
and he'd say, "You mean you don't own your own song, but you wrote it?"
mm,
You know, and
mm,
he realized that, and that's because he didn't have a business background. And I go,
right.
well, he really exposed that to the world. Prince did. That's a
Yes,
great contribution that people don't understand with him. I go, no, Prince. He said, wait a minute, and then he did his own studio and other stuff, right?
yes. He was
But
he was
but
smart.
he, yeah.
Smart.
So I mean,
Well,
he brought that out.
right. In the end, I don't know what happened, but
The RCA had Elvis. And here,
Mhm.
so let me show you the double-edged sword of this, because this is, something for your audience that maybe helps. So everyone knows that Elvis was managed by Colonel Tom,
Right.
right? Everyone knows that.
Yeah, yeah.
And people say, what was their deal? I go, their deal was a handshake and it was 50-50. Now people say, what are you talking about, Jonathan? I go, their deal was a handshake
Mm, mm.
and they split everything down the middle. Now, some people say, oh, he should have only gotten 10% of Colonel Tom.
Right.
And I go, really? So let's look at this through another lens.
Okay.
He made Elvis into the number one solo act in the entire world.
Hmm.
In the entire world
Okay.
at that time,
Right.
during his lifetime.
Right.
I go, that's a hell of a thing to do.
Mm.
I mean, to make somebody into that. So I go, do you think Elvis was suffering? Have you ever been to Graceland? He's not suffering. He's not,
Well,
in the gutter,
yeah.
So
Well,
it's something to realize. So when we were talking about the big record company, I go, yeah, you're right. They do take a big chunk. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's no arguing the point.
right.
On the other hand,
Right.
they have the money to promote.
Resources too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
So,
saying that they don't, and I know they do. That's why people want to be with a major, because it's like,
sure.
okay, I can focus on just my art. But what I'm saying, in today's day and age, depending on which genre you're in,
Sure.
you should tread very lightly, because
Sure.
you might be signing up for something you didn't even know you were signing up for.
Biggest genre in the world is hip hop.
Yes, and but hip hop has been taken hostage right now.
Right.
And it's
Jay,
hard.
I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But
So
I
that-
go, that's the biggest genre in the world.
Right, and it does get around the world. That's facts.
Yeah.
But yeah, but
I don't
just
know what Drake is worth. Somebody of those categories is what I'm saying.
right.
Like
right
$100 million is what I'm
Yeah.
getting.
No, I know. But I
Giant
wouldn't want to
songs.
be. I wouldn't personally, if I was an artist, a young artist. There's no way I'd want to be Drake or any of them right now.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, you
But
don't
so-
want to be P. Diddy.
Well, they're all friends, but that's another story. I'm just saying
Right.
I wouldn't want to be with.
Yeah. Oh no, I get it.
You
I
see
get
what I'm
it.
saying? But the young people, sometimes they don't get that. They just see the glamour and the Rolls Royce and the nice house, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
you got to really think about this. You have a talent that's worth millions of dollars. That is true, but that doesn't mean that you can't be just as popular in another way. It won't be as big as the labels make you, because I mean, to be fair, if you have a good manager and a good team, anybody can make you just as famous as Justice Bieber. But the team is very important. The label just took the time to get the team.
Right.
That's the bottom line. So if that's the case, there's a way to do it. It's going to be longer than the regular, but there's a way to do it.
More.
I just don't believe in selling my soul to.
Yeah, I totally get that, Tanya. I am in
14.
negotiations right now.
Yeah.
I totally get you. I am
Okay.
in negotiations right now with a company
Okay.
that I may go. Like I said, I'm in negotiations, so we'll see. And but they have a great team, money, et cetera, right? All over the world, Atlanta and in Singapore, every damn place in the world, right?
Right. Right. So it's just. Oh, I thought you were going to go to another.
No, I'm just saying that I totally understand about the quality of the team and everything you're saying, and then at the same time, you don't want to sell yourself. Right?
No, you definitely don't, because what happens is, and I've seen this artists who were fantastic, and then they get to the majors, and then something happens, and boom, now we never hear from them again.
Yeah.
Or they sit their project on the back. Sorry, we got somebody that's more hotter than you. I mean,
right.
If you for what you do is a rarity in a very small niche. So that's the good news for someone like if they're in your genre, they're good to go. But I'm talking about if you're a singer, R&B, hip hop, you got to know how to navigate those chart waters,
right.
Because at some point your talent. So when the first time you ever heard, let me see, who's that? First time we ever heard like a Little Kim, I'm making that up, or give me somebody, I don't know, give me some.
Segovia, is that what you mean?
Well, I'm just saying, any artist that we first heard, it was like, wow, they have a special gift, but that gift got turned into this, I call it fluff.
Right.
And I'm sure they're no longer writing from their.
Well, Elvis was like that. He hated doing those movies.
Right.
And he hated some of the material. He loved his gospel, the rockabilly stuff. Yes. He loved that type of stuff. Right. He didn't like those movies, those cut and paste movies. Right. He didn't like some of the stuff that he had to record.
Yeah. They tried to say in one of the movies, they were trying to say, oh, yeah, he stole the Black Eyes music, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I think we need to analyze that again. I think his manager may have did that, maybe went for that look or something. But I don't really think in his heart that was his intention. His intention was.
Tanya, Elvis never wrote a song in his life.
Right.
He didn't read music.
Right.
And he recorded songs that were either written for him. He was gonna record the Whitney Houston song, the one Dolly Parton wrote, "I Will Always Love You."
Oh, okay.
Dolly Parton, Elvis liked that song. This
Mm-hmm.
is a great story about Elvis. That
Mm-hmm.
Elvis liked that song,
Mm-hmm.
and so Tom called up Dolly Parton
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Elvis is going to do your song. We love," and that was great, right? Because
Right.
that it's going to make a lot of money for
Mm-hmm.
Elvis. And so Dolly Parton, then because this speaks to your other point we were talking about earlier, then uh, Colonel Tom said, "But we have to take at least half of the royalties." And Dolly said, "But I already recorded that song and it was like number 8 on the charts, a couple of years earlier or something."
Mm-hmm.
And so uh, Tom said, "Well, then you can't do the song." So Elvis never did it. But then look what happened 30 years later.
Mm.
Whitney Houston in the film, as you know, the Kevin Costner film, right? In Her and The Bodyguard.
Yes.
And I go, you couldn't have had a bigger hit than "I Will Only Love You," sung by Whitney Houston.
Yes.
And Dolly, just, wow, right?
Yeah.
That was really big. So that
I
made
think
her
Whitney did it more
100 times more money with the film than it would have the other way.
Yes, I think that it was the universe did the right thing.
Yeah.
Because Whitney covering that song, Elvis would have covered it, but it's a different kind of cover.
Yeah, but he wouldn't, and then he never sang it, of course, and so that it was never put out by then.
Wow. Well, the universe takes care of it sometimes for us.
Yeah.
In a strange way. Yeah, the whole point for our artists is just to always walk with caution and never with desperation and gullibleness when you're signing a contract. That's my. I mean, I worked only brief in the music industry, and I did background singing, very brief, but enough to know, like, there's so many talented people, and they're not being heard. And I say, you have YouTube, you have Instagram, you have social media.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a label. You
Very
just walk.
true.
And here's the kicker. Guarantee you, when you start getting a million hits, them labels going to come looking for you.
That's for sure.
And now you're in a place of negotiation. Now you can really negotiate.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I have my YouTube partner, and he's upping my numbers way. I mean, he's doing a great job. I love him. He's a great guy, and very honest, very forthright. He's a good human being. And I go, and he's brought sites up to many millions of subscribers, viewers, etc. And so you're exactly right. You have to just do it yourself.
Yes.
And they'll come looking for it. You're absolutely right. And that's what happened with these negotiations, actually. Yeah. So exactly what you're saying, Tanya.
Yeah. No, I learned that. And then I heard, I think it was DMX said once in an interview, he said, "I got the talent." I don't understand why there's nothing to really negotiate. I got the talent. You're working for me, so that's how that goes. I mean, I forgot how he exactly said, but I remember him saying specifically, if you have a talent, a true talent, and a true gift, you don't have to be doing all that other stuff that everybody be doing. Right. You just say, "This is what I'm doing, and this is how we're doing it." And then if they want to do it, yes. If they don't, okay, see ya. I got talent. I can go somewhere else. So that's kind of how you come in, from a place of knowing your gift and your talent. Yeah, your power. If you don't, they will crush you like a fly. That's all I can say.
That's true.
It will crush you.
I have to agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't believe our time is winding up. So I have one more question.
We've got one more minute, huh?
Yeah. Well, I don't go with exact time, but sort of. So looking ahead, is there any exciting projects or collaborations that you're working on?
The YouTube project, they're rebranding everything. I was, as you know, yesterday filming, or at least trying to.
Okay. Where do you want them to go to when they go to YouTube?
Just the name of the site is jclassicalguitarmastery. But the easy way to do it is just type Jonathan Taylor Guitar, and you'll see a bunch of YouTube videos, and then click on them, and you get the site there. That's easy, rather than having to remember JT Classical Guitar Mastery and typing all that stuff. Yeah. Just Jonathan Taylor Guitar.
Yeah, that's important. When you make up your name, make it short and easy.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, people will be like, I don't remember what it was.
That's right.
That's very important too. I'm learning that as a older person. I'm learning that for me personally. So I tell people, make it short and sweet. But that's awesome. So what do you see the future of classical guitar performance?
I
What do you
think
see?
that by expanding the repertoire, I can bring in many other people that would not listen to the classical guitar if it was, let's say, a Spanish masterpiece,
Mm,
for
mm,
example.
okay.
That
Wow.
they may not like that type of music. When I was young, I loved playing all the masterpieces and learning them that. And then after I got done doing them, I go, but I'm an American. I'm
Mm,
not a European. I'm not a Spaniard.
mm,
I'm an American. So
mm,
what do I want? I go, I like American music as well. So I
mm.
started adapting those things. Now you can say the 007 stuff is British, of course,
Yeah.
and but the Wonderful Wizard of Oz is American. The psychedelic stuff is American. I mean, on and on. Duke Ellington is
Mm.
American.
Yes.
People like that. Scott Joplin.
Yes. Well, when I heard something that you played, I don't remember the name of the piece. I apologize. But you were just going away at this guitar. Oh my gosh. It was just amazing. I don't remember the name of the piece. But um, I would, sorry, I don't know what that came in there. I just wasn't thinking of any place in particular. I just was warming my soul with what I was hearing.
Great. I'm always happy to hear that because that truly is my mission.
I was gonna just ask you that. What is your goal with your music? What do you want? What do you want fans to
to
take?
to bring to bring healing to those that are
Mhm.
sick, to bring beauty into the world, because parts of our world are very ugly as well,
Yes, it
and
is.
to emphasize that music of many many genres
Hmm.
can be fulfilling and can change you, can help you,
Hmm.
can or you can just enjoy. And I've been asked before, uh, well, how did you become, or why do you think you became the guitarist? And I go, who really knows? Why is it that a little boy can sit in an audience, listen to a great artist like Segovia,
Hmm.
and what is it that they want to become that? And somebody else next to them, maybe they just want to enjoy the concert.
Right.
So when those, I think, are parts of the mystery of life.
Mm. Wow. Well, thank you so much, guys. You've been listening on the town with your host Tanya Cooper, and our guest today was the fabulous Jonathan Taylor, classical great. Forever, if you get a chance, please go to the site and check out his videos. Amazing! Promise you, it will calm your soul. If nothing else, your soul will just be sitting there doing flips and happy as a lamb. So please listen. And if you're a guitarist, you definitely want to take note. So thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank
Can
you,
you hang
Tanya.
out with me while I say goodbye to everybody?
You betcha.
All right. So thank you again, guys. Norma, I see you there. Tony, hi. Thank you so much for the people I cannot see on YouTube. I appreciate you. And we will see you next week. Yeah. All righty. Bye.